My name is Emily. I never thought that my life would turn into a nightmare. It all started one normal day when I came home from work and saw an unknown man standing outside my house. He looked perfectly ordinary, middle-aged, with short dark hair and casual clothes. At first I didn't pay attention to it, but later I started to notice it more and more often. He stood not far from my house, sometimes even in my yard. One day I decided to approach him and ask what he was doing here. He replied that he was lost and was looking for a way. His voice was calm, but something about it sent a chill down my spine. I showed him the direction and went to the house, but the feeling of danger did not disappear. Every day I felt his presence more and more. He began to appear not only near my house, but also on my way to work, at the store where I shopped, even at the fitness club that I attended. I told my boyfriend, Michael, about it. He reassured me that maybe it was just a coincidence. But I knew it wasn't like that. My intuition has never failed me. One evening, when I came home later than usual, I found the front door open. The heart beat faster. I carefully went inside and saw that everything was in place. Nothing was missing. I immediately called Michael. He arrived in a few minutes and inspected the entire house. Nothing suspicious was found. But I knew someone was in my house. The sense of danger returned again. The next day I decided to install surveillance cameras around the house. Michael helped me with this. The cameras were well hidden and I hoped they would help catch the stranger red-handed. For several days, nothing happened. I began to think that maybe I really was exaggerating. But one evening I was watching the footage from the cameras and saw him. The same man was standing by my window and looking in. I immediately called the police. They arrived quickly, but of course the man had already disappeared. They drew up a protocol and promised to increase patrols in my area, but it did not give me peace. I knew this was just the beginning. After the police visit, I tried to live my normal life, but every noise and every unfamiliar sound made me panic. I became paranoid. Michael tried to calm me down, but even he couldn't completely take away my fear. One day at work, I received a letter. It contained nothing but a photo of my house. The picture was taken from the side of the garden, where I did not install the camera. I immediately understood that he broke into my house again. I called the police and showed them the photo. They took her as evidence and promised to start an investigation. But I felt that it was not enough. I decided to act on my own. I purchased additional cameras and installed them in my garden and at all entrances to the house. Now I could see every corner of my territory. I also started carrying pepper spray and took self-defense classes. The next few weeks were quiet. I began to think that maybe he was afraid of the increased attention from the police and decided to leave me alone. But one evening, I received another letter. This time it had more photos, pictures of me going to work, shopping, even at the gym. It was a real nightmare. I realized that he was watching me all the time. Panic fear gripped me. I didn't know what to do and who to turn to. I began to suspect every stranger, every passerby. I decided to talk to the head of security at my office. He was sympathetic and agreed to help me. Since then, I always had an escort when I went to my car or came home from work. One day, when I was walking home with Michael, we noticed a strange car that kept following us. Michael decided to check it out and took a few unexpected turns, but the car still followed us. Michael stopped in the parking lot near a large store and we got out of the car. The car also stopped, but no one got out. We quickly entered the store and called the police. They arrived quickly, but the car was already gone. This was another proof that he would not stop. I decided to temporarily move in with Michael. We thought that would help, but during the night I received another letter. He knew where I lived now. The letter was simple, just one sentence. I will always be there. The police could no longer ignore the situation. They began to be on duty near Michael's house. I felt a little safer, but I still couldn't shake the fear. Every sound in the night made me panic. We started looking for ways to discover who this man was and why he was after me. Michael contacted his friend, a private detective named Jack, and asked him to help. Jack agreed and began his investigation. Jack worked quickly. He began by analyzing all the letters and photographs. He also looked at the surveillance cameras installed around my house and near Michael's house. His professionalism gave me hope. One evening, Jack informed us that he had found clues in one of the letters that might lead to the sender. He noticed a faint watermark used by one of the local printers. Jack visited the printing shop and questioned the workers. It turned out that a few months ago, a man came to them who ordered a large print run of photos and postcards with a watermark. He showed us a description of the man that completely matched the description of the pursuer. We finally got a clue. Jack collected all the information and gave it to the police. They began actively looking for this man. This was the first step towards solving the problem, but we did not yet know how deep it would go. One day when I was at Michael's house, we heard a knock on the door. It was Jack. He looked worried. He told us that he found another important detail. The man who ordered the printing used forged documents. Jack began to cooperate even more closely with the police. They discovered that the man had several forged documents and changed his identity every few months. He was a professional at his job and knew how to stay invisible. We understand that this will be a lengthy investigation. The police advised us to be careful and not leave the house unnecessarily. They also set up extra patrols around our area. One evening, I decided to check the mail and found another letter, but this time he was not like before. In it was a note. "I know you're trying to find me, but it won't change anything." Michael and Jack were there when I read the note. They were angry and determined. Michael said we wouldn't give up, and Jack assured us we would find this man, even if it took a long time. The next day, Jack received a call from his source. They found a witness who saw a man who looked like our stalker renting an apartment in a nearby neighborhood. This was the first real testimony. The police went to this address, but the apartment was empty. However, they found some evidence: photos of me, notes, and forged documents. This confirmed that we are on the right track. It turned out that the man had moved quite recently. The police started interviewing the neighbors and learned that he was very quiet and never attracted attention. No one could give an exact description because he always wore a cap and glasses. The police collected all the evidence they found and began to analyze it. They found even more fake documents and several phone numbers he used. This was an important step towards his exposure. Michael and I tried to live on, but the fear remained. We knew he was somewhere nearby watching us. It was an endless nightmare from which we could not wake up. One day, as I was leaving the house, I noticed a car that looked familiar. It was the same car that followed us a few weeks ago. I took a picture of her and sent the picture to Jack. Jack immediately passed this information on to the police. They started looking for the car and its owner. It turned out that the car was also registered on forged documents. The police became more and more involved in this case. They discovered that the man used several false identities and moved from place to place every few months. This made his tracks very difficult to trace. However, one day a police patrol found an abandoned car in the woods nearby. It was burned, but inside there were some things that could help in the investigation. A burnt laptop and several documents were found among the remains in the car. The police took them for examination, hoping to recover some information. They worked without a break, trying to find at least some clue. Meanwhile, Michael and I tried to continue living our normal lives, but it was difficult. Every day we felt tension and fear. We couldn't shake the feeling that he was somewhere nearby, watching over us. A few days later, the police reported that they had managed to recover some of the data from the laptop. It turned out that it contained detailed plans to stalk me, photos, recordings, and even personal notes. It was a real breakthrough. The police began to analyze the received data and were able to identify several places where the stalker could be hiding. They also found several contacts who could be his accomplices. The police organized a raid on one of the suspected objects. Michael and I waited at home, unable to find a place for ourselves due to nervous tension. It was the hardest wait in my life. They found him. He tried to escape but was detained. It was a huge relief, but we knew it wasn't the end. The man's name was Thomas Gray. The police conducted a detailed investigation into his background and found that he had been involved in several other cases of stalking but had never been caught. They also found his hideout where he kept a lot of evidence of his crimes. There were pictures and recordings not only of me, but also of other people he was harassing. It was scary to realize how many lives he had ruined. After his arrest, I started to feel a little safer. The police promised that they would do everything possible to prevent him from causing further harm. They also continued their investigation, looking for his possible accomplices. Thomas' trial was difficult. He tried to deny all the accusations, but the evidence was too convincing. The police had enough material to prove his guilt. I testified at the trial, telling about all the terrible moments I experienced. It was very difficult, but I knew it was necessary to ensure justice and punishment for him. The court issued a verdict. Thomas Gray was sentenced to life imprisonment without the right to parole. It was a huge relief for me and for his other victims. After the trial ended, Michael and I were finally able to return to our normal lives. We knew it would leave deep wounds, but we were determined to get through it together. We decided to change our place of residence and move to another city to start a new life without constant fear. It was a difficult step, but necessary for our peace. The new beginning was difficult, but we had each other and supported each other. We found new friends, a new job, and gradually began to feel more confident. I continued to go to therapy to help me deal with the experience. This was important to my recovery and helped me find inner peace. Michael was my biggest support. He was always there, helping me overcome the most difficult moments. His love and support gave me the strength to fight on. We also stayed in touch with Jack, who became a close friend of ours. He continued to work as a private detective and helped other people who found themselves in a similar situation. I decided to write a book about my experiences to help other people understand that they are not alone in their fears and that there is always a way out. It was my way of turning a negative experience into something positive. The book became popular and received many positive reviews. I received many letters from people thanking me for sharing my story and helping them find the strength to deal with their own problems. My life began to return to normal. I learned to trust people again and enjoy life without constant fear. It was a long and difficult journey, but I felt stronger. Michael and I decided to get married. It was a wonderful and joyous celebration to which we invited our close friends and family. We were happy that we could finally live without fear. Our life gradually became stable and calm. We had new dreams and plans for the future, and we were sure that we could realize them together. Nor have we forgotten those who helped us through this nightmare. We stayed in touch with the police, Jack, and other people who supported us in the most difficult moments. Later, I started working as a volunteer at a support center for victims of persecution. I wanted to help other people find the strength and support that I once received. The center has become an important part of my life. I have met many wonderful people who have gone through similar trials, and together we have helped each other overcome difficulties. Michael and I also decided to establish a charitable foundation to support victims of persecution. It was our way of giving back to the community and helping those in need. The foundation quickly gained popularity and received a lot of support. We were able to implement several large, re-emerged maniac ChatGPT. The fund quickly gained popularity and received a lot of support. We were able to implement several large projects that helped victims of persecution. But just when we started to feel real relief, our life turned into a nightmare again. One evening, Michael and I were returning home after our foundations event. As soon as we entered the house, I noticed that the kitchen window was open. I was sure that we were closing it. Michael decided to inspect the house. He took a knife from the kitchen and began to carefully go around each room. I stayed in the corridor. My heart was pounding with fear. A few minutes later, Michael came back and said everything looked fine. We closed the window and decided it could be a fluke. But at night, I woke up from a strange sound. It was a soft rustling, as if someone was moving around in our house. Michael also woke up and we carefully left the room. We saw a broken vase in the kitchen. It looked like someone had been here recently. Michael inspected the doors and windows. The police arrived quickly and inspected the house. They found no signs of intrusion. It seemed strange, but we decided not to panic and thought that maybe it was just a coincidence. The next day we received a letter. It was an ordinary envelope without a return address. There was only one sentence in it: "I'm back." The heart froze in the chest. We understood that the nightmare is back. We immediately called Jack and told him about the letter. He came to us and promised to look into the situation. We again installed additional surveillance cameras and increased the security of our house. Jack began his investigation. He looked at the camera footage and discovered that someone had indeed been in our house during the night. He made his way through the basement and out through the kitchen window. This was proof that we were dealing with the same maniac. The police began actively looking for this man. They interviewed the neighbors and checked all possible traces, but the pursuer was too cunning. He disappeared again without a trace. Michael and I decided to temporarily move to a safe place. We chose a small house on the outskirts of town where no one knew us. It was our way of hiding and finding some peace. But even in a new place, we did not feel safe. Every sound in the night caused panic. We kept looking around and couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching us. One day, we received a message to a new address. It contained a photo of our new home and a note. "I know where you are." We contacted the police, but they couldn't do anything without concrete evidence. We decided to go it alone and installed even more surveillance cameras and alarms. Jack continued his investigation. He discovered that the stalker was using sophisticated techniques to remain invisible. He changed his places of residence and used forged documents. One evening, we heard an alarm. The surveillance camera showed a man in black who made his way into our yard. The police arrived quickly, but again did not have time to catch him. We realized that he was playing with us, and this was his way of scaring us. We began to fear for our lives and the lives of our loved ones. This became a real test of our will and stability. The police have stepped up patrols around our new house. They advised us to stay at home and not go out unless necessary. We felt trapped, not knowing what to do next. Jack decided to do another investigation. He found out that Thomas Gray had accomplices who could help him escape from prison. That explained why he had reappeared. The police began to search for these accomplices. They checked all possible contacts of Thomas and identified several suspects. It gave us hope that we could stop him again. One day we got a call from the police. They found one of Thomas' accomplices and were able to find out where he is currently hiding. It was the breakthrough we had been waiting for so long. The police organized a special operation to arrest Thomas. We were at home waiting for news. It was the hardest wait in our lives. We prayed that everything would go well. Finally, we got a call. Thomas Gray was arrested again. He tried to escape, but the police were ready for it. He was detained and taken back to prison. It was a huge relief. Michael and I could breathe freely again, but we knew that it would leave a deep mark on our lives. We could not forget all that we experienced. The police promised that they would do everything possible to prevent Thomas from escaping again. They also increased security measures to protect us from possible accomplices. We decided to move again, this time outside the city limits. It was a difficult step, but necessary for our peace. We found a small house in a remote place where no one knew us. The new beginning was difficult, but we knew it was necessary. We started building a new life, trying to forget everything that happened. We supported each other and did not give up. I continued to work at the foundation, helping other people who had gone through similar trials. It gave me strength and motivation to fight on. Michael also found a new job and started volunteering. We have worked together to make the world a better place for those who have experienced such horror. Our life gradually became stable and calm. We made new friends and started to feel more confident. We knew we would always be careful, but we no longer lived in constant fear. I wrote another book about our new experience and how we were able to overcome all the difficulties. It was my way of sharing my story and helping others find the strength to fight on. The book became popular and received many positive reviews. People thanked me for sharing my story and helping them find hope and strength. Michael and I finally found real peace. We knew that we would never forget what happened, but we also knew that we were able to overcome all the challenges together. We became stronger and closer to each other, and that was the most important thing. Our new town was quiet and cozy, but we couldn't completely relax. Every new sound, every shadow seemed a threat to us. We knew that Thomas was behind bars again, but the fear did not go away. We started going to a local support group for victims of abuse. There, we met other people who had also experienced terrible situations. They shared their stories, and we felt we were not alone. One day, when we were walking home from a support group meeting, I saw a chalk sign on our door. It was a symbol we had seen before in the letters from Thomas. My heart froze. Michael immediately called Jack. Jack arrived an hour later and thoroughly inspected our house. He confirmed that it was the same symbol. He advised us to stay at home and not go out unaccompanied. We began to suspect that one of the locals might be Thomas' accomplice. Jack helped organize another surveillance operation. We knew we had to be careful not to attract too much attention. One evening, when we were sitting at home, I saw a window that was open. I'm sure I closed it before leaving. We decided to double-check all the doors and windows to make sure everything was securely closed. The next day, we received a message in the mailbox. It read, "I will always be there for you." That was the last straw. We decided to install a security system with an alarm that will notify us of any violations. The police have increased patrols in our area. They also launched an investigation among local residents to identify possible accomplices of Thomas. We felt supported, but the fear did not go away. One day, Jack informed us that the police had found a suspect. It was one of the employees of the local store who was in cahoots with Thomas. He was detained and interrogated. He admitted his involvement. The apprehension of the accomplice gave us some peace. We knew it wasn't the end, but it was important to understand that the threat was diminishing. We continued to live, but with great care. Michael began attending self-defense courses. He wanted to be ready for any situation and protect us both. I supported him in this decision and also decided to learn to defend myself. One day we got a call from Jack. He said that Thomas had been transferred to a stricter prison where he would not be able to escape. This was the best news in a while. We decided it was time to start living again. Michael and I went on vacation to relax and forget about all our fears. This was our first trip in many years, and we enjoyed every minute of it. When we got home, we felt much better. We knew we couldn't completely get rid of fear, but we also understood that life goes on. We started talking more with friends and family. I wrote a new book in which I talked about our struggle and victory over fear. The book got a lot of feedback, and people thanked me for sharing my story. Michael opened his own security firm. He wanted to help other people who had experienced similar situations and ensure their safety. This became his vocation. Our life gradually became stable. Michael and I knew that together we could overcome any difficulties. We felt stronger and closer to each other than ever before. We started participating in public events and charity projects. It gave us a sense of togetherness and support. We felt again that our life had meaning. One day we received a letter from an unknown person. He wrote that he knows about our struggle and wants to help us. It was unexpected, but we decided to give him a chance and meet. He turned out to be a former police officer who also experienced a similar situation. He wanted to share his experience and help us find peace. We started working together on new security projects. Our cooperation has borne fruit. We were able to help many people who found themselves in difficult situations. It gave us strength and motivation to continue. One day, during a support group meeting, we learned that another of our friends had become a victim of stalking. We immediately decided to help him and began to act. The police were able to arrest our friend's pursuer. It was another accomplice of Thomas who continued his business. The detention was a great success for all of us. Michael and I decided that it is time to expand our activities. We opened a new office and hired more people to help victims of harassment and keep them safe. Our new office quickly became popular. People came to us for help, and we did everything we could to support them. It gave us a sense of satisfaction and significance. We started organizing self-defense and security training programs for local residents. We also launched a support program for survivors of violence and harassment. These were support groups, consultations with psychologists, and other types of assistance. One day, when we were holding another support group meeting, a young woman approached us. She said that she too became a victim of persecution and needs help. We immediately started to act. The police were able to arrest her pursuer. He was a dangerous criminal who had been wanted for many years. This was a great achievement for our team and gave hope to many people. We continued to work despite all the difficulties. We knew our work mattered and helped people find peace and security. One day we received an invitation to speak at a security conference. It was a great honor for us, and we decided to share our experience and knowledge with others. At the conference, we talked about our journey, starting from the terrible experience of persecution to creating an organization that helps others. We shared safety strategies and the importance of support for victims of violence. Our performance aroused great interest. After the presentation, several participants approached us and expressed their gratitude and interest in cooperation. It confirmed to us that our work has a big impact. After returning home, we began to implement new ideas that appeared after the conference. We have expanded our training and support programs by adding new elements to improve efficiency. We also created an online platform where people could find safety information, advice, and support. This allowed us to reach a wider audience and help even more people. Over time, our organization has become one of the leaders in the field of support for victims of violence and security. We have received numerous awards and recognition for our work. However, despite our success, we did not forget about our own fears and anxieties. We continued to go to therapy and support each other to stay strong. One day, I received a letter from a person who wanted to share his story anonymously. She noted that she experienced similar situations and found inspiration in our story. This gave us new motivation to continue our work. We decided to create a series of video interviews with people who went through difficulties and found a way to recovery. This has helped not only to inspire others, but also to give a voice to those who have gone through similar experiences. Our organization began to receive support from large corporate partners who helped finance our programs and expand our activities. This allowed us to focus on our mission. We continue to implement new initiatives, including programs to prevent violence in schools and at work. This helped prevent new victims and increase the overall level of security. Once we were approached by an organization from another city that wanted to adapt our programs for their community. We decided to help them and share our experience to expand our assistance to other regions. Over time, we began to actively work with international partners, which allowed us to participate in global initiatives to combat violence and ensure security. Our efforts have led to changes in legislation that have improved the protection of victims of violence. We have worked with legislators to ensure that new laws and policies are passed that support survivors. We also organized national campaigns to raise awareness about violence and ways to prevent it. This helped to change public perceptions and increase the level of support for victims. Our work did not go unnoticed. We received invitations to speak at international forums and conferences where we shared our experience and influenced global security strategies. We continued to develop and improve our programs. Our efforts have produced real results, and we have seen people's lives change for the better thanks to our support. One day, while we were celebrating the success of our organization, I received a phone call from a former employee of Thomas. He said that there are new threats and that you need to be on the lookout. This call emphasized that even in achieving success, we should not forget about the dangers. We increased our security measures and continued to closely monitor the situation. We have also provided additional training to our staff to ensure they are prepared for any potential threats. This helped us to be confident in our ability to handle any challenges. Our life remained full of challenges and achievements. We continued to fight for safety and justice, not forgetting the importance of supporting each other. Our efforts proved to be significant, not only for those we helped, but also for ourselves. We knew that together we could overcome any difficulties and continue our mission for the benefit of society. When he went through all the rooms and found nothing suspicious, we tried to calm down. But suddenly we heard a noise from the basement. My heart beat even faster. Michael, holding a knife, carefully opened the door to the basement and we went down. In the basement, we saw a man. He stood with his back to us, rummaging through our toolbox. When he came back, I recognized him. It was Thomas Gray. He looked as if nothing had happened, as if he was not imprisoned. I could feel my legs becoming cotton wool. Michael rushed towards him without hesitation, but Thomas was faster. He grabbed a crowbar from the drawer and pushed Michael away. I screamed and ran back upstairs, trying to call the police. Thomas rushed after me, but Michael wouldn't let him get to me. They struggled, and I heard Michael scream in pain. I couldn't leave him alone and returned to the basement with the phone in my hands, filming everything that was happening. The police arrived quickly. They apprehended Thomas, and this time he was unable to escape. Michael was seriously injured, but he survived. The police found out that Thomas managed to escape from the prison and started chasing me again. It was another blow we had to endure. Michael spent a long time recovering from his injury, and I stayed by his side supporting him. We decided that we would never live in fear again.